Question number 3 is from functions. So the topics that you have to revise from functions, I'm just gonna quickly list them out. It is composite functions, and finding inverse of a function. Okay, let's start off. So it says find g of f of 3. We can see the definition of f of x is 1 plus 4x, g of x is x squared. So first I will write this as g of f of 3. What does that mean? In the definition of g of x, wheresoever there was x previously, I have to replace it by f of 3. So let's find out f of 3 first. So f of 3 would be 1 plus 4 times 3. So 12 plus 1 is 13. I will substitute 13 instead of this f of 3. So it would be g of 13. Again, that means in the definition of g of x, I will replace this x by 13. Okay, so it would be 13 square, and that is 169. F of g of x. So again, f of g of x. That would result in some expression. What does that mean? In the definition of f of x, I will replace x by g of x. So this is the definition of f of x. So 1 plus 4 times I will replace x by g of x. So it's going to be x squared. The final answer is 1 plus 4x squared. Okay, f inverse of f of x. If you remember, it's a straight away concept. So f of f inverse of x or f inverse of f of x. They basically both cancel out each other, so we are always left with just x inside. So that is the answer. Find the value of x when f of x equals to 15. So the definition of f of x was 1 plus 4x, and that is equivalent to 15. So we can see we have got a linear equation. There would be a single value of x if we solve it out. So let's solve it. Again, just a quick recap. In order to solve any equation, especially for linear equations, you have to think about what's happening with this x. Okay, so 4 is being multiplied, then 1 is being added. So whatsoever the operation that is happening with x at the very last, you will get rid of it at the very first. Okay, so 1 is being added at the very last. That's what I said, right? So let's move it on the other side. It's going to be 4x. 15 minus 1 is 14, and x would be equal to 14 by 4, which is 7 by 2. Always leave your answer in the simplified form. Okay, so that was question number 3. Question number 4, it's a triangle. I can see I have to find some angles. Straight away the topic that came into my mind was trigonometry. Okay, and it's not a right angle triangle. That means it's not simple trigonometry. It would be further trigonometry. Okay, so I'm just going to write further trigonometry for you guys. Now in further trigonometry, there were 3 things that we studied. One was sine rule, cosine rule, and then the formula for area of triangle. That was 1 by 2 EB sine C. Okay, so I expect that you guys will memorize or at least revise these concepts. Let's move on. So in the triangle ABC, AB equals to 45 centimeters. We can see that it's marked on the question. AC is 29.5 centimeter, BC is 35.3 centimeter, and angle CAB is 51.6 degrees. just a quick hint again for you guys, whenever you are attempting the questions that involves angles or that involves diagrams, make sure all the information that is provided to you in the question in the form of statements, that should be marked on the figure. Okay, so all of this information is already marked on the figure. Let's move ahead. What the question says, it says calculate angle ABC. ABC, I'm gonna mark the angle, so this one. Now, as I've already said, it's further trigonometry because it's not a right angle triangle. Okay, so if you remember, whenever two angles and two sides are involved, we use the sine rule, and whenever there is a option between cos rule and sine rule, we will always prioritize sine rule. So I'm gonna apply sine rule here, because see, one angle is known, one angle is unknown. That means two angles are involved and I know all three sides. So minimum two angles and two sides are involved, one of which would be unknown. You always straight away jump onto the sine rule. Okay, that's just a quick trick because our purpose is to form an equation and then there should be only one unknown in that equation, if you remember. So let's apply sine rule. So because this B is unknown, I'm gonna keep the angles in the subject. So sine of B over 29.5 equals to sine of A, that is 51.6. So sine of 51.6 over 35.3, and you solve it out, it's going to be sine of B is equal to, let me quickly solve it. So sine 51.6, whatsoever is the answer, times 29.5 divided by 35.3. So sine of B equals to 0.65493. Try to never use the rounded off value within the question. Try to use the whole answer as it is. If you want to write it down, at least write it down up to 4 to 5 decimal place so that there is minimum error. Okay, that's why I've used at least 5 decimal places. The more decimal places you would use here, the less error you guys would have over there. All right, because if you round it off up to 1 or 2 decimal place, there would be more error and your final answer will be wrong probably, and then you will lose the answer marks. Okay, so I have used it up to 5 decimal place. In my calculation, I will use the whole answer, that was 0.6549279600088, and then I will take sine inverse of that. The final answer would be final answer is 40.914, and it's the angle which I have to provide in 1 decimal place always. So the final answer is 40.9. Calculate the area of triangle ABC. We have already revised the concept. So 1/2 AB sine C. The key trick in here was that the angle should be included angle. So I can see one included angle already here and 2 sides are known. So I'm going to use those 2 sides. So 1/2 times 29.5 times 45. So AB and then sine C. The angle should be included angle. So sine of 51.6. Let's solve it out. It's going to be 29.5 times 45 times sine of 51.6 equals to, and then answer divided by 2. So final answer is 520.1765. I'm just gonna say 520. Let's write it down. 1765 centimeter square. You can leave this answer over here as well, but if you remember the instruction in the paper, the answers that are not the angles, you leave them in 3 significant figures. So I'm just gonna write it as 520 centimeters square. Okay, let's move ahead. Part B, again there is some figure regarding I can see 2 triangles, so that is probably related to trigonometry again. Let's see. Diagram shows a quadrilateral PQRS formed from 2 triangles, PQS and QRS. We can see PQS, QRS. Triangle PQS is isosceles with PQ equals to PS, PQ, PS. We can see that. And angle SPQ is equal to 56 degrees. So this is 56. QR is 47, marked. Angle SQR is 60 degrees, marked. Calculate SR. So we have to find out this side. Okay. Now in a triangle there is just one angle known, one side known. I need at least one more side so that I can find out the other side. Okay, or at least one more angle, I would say. So there are heaps of ways to do it. I'm just gonna use the quickest one, I think, because this is the isosceles triangle. So in an isosceles triangle, whenever we drop a perpendicular, it will always bisect this side and bisect this angle. Okay, so that means let's call this X. So this small angle would be 28 degrees. Now, one of the most common mistakes I've observed is that even in the other triangles as well, if it's a scalene triangle, students will still drop a perpendicular and they think that it bisects the angle, which is very wrong. It is the property that is only applicable in case of isosceles triangle only. Alright, so I dropped a perpendicular. If this is X, this is going to be X as well. So the angle is bisected as well. Now I will apply simple trigonometry over here. Now why I have done it, I could have used any other thing as well, probably cos rule, but it's gonna be way lengthy approach. Alright, it's just 4 marks. Your priorities should be, you always have to go for simple trigonometry first if that is applicable. So simple trigonometry. If that is not applicable, and you cannot apply the formula for like area of a simple triangle, that is 1/2 base height, then you will have a look if sine rule is applicable. Your priority should be on sine rule. Okay, we have studied the criteria. When do we apply the sine rule? And then the last thing is cosine rule. Okay, now let's move on. Let's calculate this one first. So perpendicular or opposite is unknown and hypotenuse is known. The trigonometric ratio that relates perpendicular and hypotenuse, or opposite or hypotenuse, is sine. So sine of 28 is equal to perpendicular, that is x, over hypotenuse, that is 32. Solving it out, x would be equal to sine 28 times, so sine 28 times 32, this is equal to 15.02309. Now see, why I am using this up to 5 decimal place is because that's not the final answer. Within the question, whenever you guys are using any value, it should be up to at least 4 to 5 decimal place. Okay, just to avoid the error as much as you can. The best practice is use the full answer from the calculator. Okay, so this would be the same. This SQ would be, that means, I'm just gonna write it down. SQ is equal to times 2. That would be 30.04618. So I have this SQ, I have this angle, I have this side. I just need to find out the third side. Okay, so that means 3 sides are involved, 1 angle is involved. What would you do? You'll apply cos rule. So what was cos rule? If you remember, it was a square, write it down, equals to b square plus c square minus 2bc cos of a. And which side is the subject? It is the side that is opposite to the angle involved. So this angle is involved, we have to find SR. This angle is involved, so this side will be the subject. So I'm gonna write SR square equals to b square. Let's call this side as b. So it would be 30.04618 square plus 47 square minus 2 times 30.04618 times 47 times cos of 60. So solving it out, it would be 30 point blah 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 square plus 47 square, that is 3111.77293. okay, minus, let's simplify this one, so it would be 2 times 30, so 2 times 30.04618 times 47 times cos of 60, which is 1 by 2. So this is 1412.17046. So I'm gonna subtract these two, so it would be 3,111.77293 minus 1412.17046, and then take the square root of the answer. It would be SR equals to 41.22623, and again it's a side, it's not an angle, so let's write it down up to 3 significant figures. So it's going to be 41.2 centimeters. Calculate the shortest distance from P to SQ. Let's mark it first. So P to SQ. Okay, we have already used that one, so let's copy it down, because we haven't found it out. We marked that one, but we haven't found it out. Shortest distance, remember, is always the perpendicular distance, always. Okay, so just writing it for you guys, always perpendicular distance. Okay, so what we have to find out, it's this one, what we marked, let's call that y. So right now I'm going to use this 28 angle, so that means adjacent or base is involved, and we already know the hypotenuse. So base and hypotenuse, these two sides are related by cosine. So if you remember, curly brown here, so cos of 28 equals to adjacent or base, that is y, and hypotenuse is 32. Solving it out, y would be equals to cos 28 times 32, and this would be 28.25432. So the final answer is, again, I will round it off up to 3 significant figures. That means I need the value till this point. The next number is 5 or greater than 5. Add 1 to this one, it's going to be 28.3 centimeters. That's the final answer.